Today, we're diving into the first couple of chapters of the ancient book of Isaiah. And what we find there is this incredible contrast. On one hand, a nation that's just completely falling apart. And on the other, this breathtaking vision of a world made new.
The prophecy really doesn't pull any punches. It opens with a pretty shocking diagnosis of the nation of Judah. It's like the entire nation is sick from head to toe, just covered in these festering wounds that no one's even trying to fix.
And this imagery is just so powerful, isn't it? It paints this picture of being totally exposed. Jerusalem is compared to a little hut a farmer would build in a field, something you know is flimsy, temporary, and not going to last. The only thing keeping it from being totally wiped out was God's intervention.
So you gotta ask, right? What happened here? What was the root cause of all this sickness? Well, the prophet Isaiah lays it out pretty clearly. The nation was in open rebellion against its God, Jehovah. They had literally turned their backs on the one who protected them. You know, the text says they had less sense than a bull or a donkey that knows who feeds it. I mean, wow. And that comparison to Sodom and Gomorrah, it wasn't just about what they were doing, but about their attitude, this stubborn, arrogant pride. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. On the surface, these people were very religious. They were going through all the motions, but there was this massive disconnect between what they were doing and how God actually saw it.
Just look at this contrast. They brought tons of sacrifices. God's reaction? I have had enough. They held festivals. He says, my soul has hated them. Their prayers? He wasn't listening. And it all comes down to one thing. It was all a show. It was empty ritual without any real heart behind it.
And here's the bottom line, the reason none of it mattered. Their worship was worthless because their entire society was filled with violence and oppression. God just couldn't accept their pious-sounding prayers while their hands were, metaphorically, covered in blood. So, with all this going on, you just know something's gotta give, right? A day of reckoning was inevitable. The prophecy describes this great humbling, a time when all that human pride would finally be brought low. And the prophecy kind of builds this idea layer by layer. First up, human pride itself. All that arrogance, all those haughty looks, they were going to be forced to bow down. And it wasn't just about attitudes. Next, it targets the very symbols of strength. Think about these massive, ancient cedar trees, the kind that look like they'll stand forever. The prophecy says even they would have to bow. And then, of course, there are the things they built to protect themselves. All their high towers, their fortified walls, none of it would matter. It was all coming down. See, the problem was where they placed their trust. It wasn't in God, it was in stuff. Piles of silver and gold, an endless supply of horses and chariots for their army. And of course, their land was filled with worthless idols they'd made with their own hands. So, on this day of judgment, what happens to all those precious idols? The things they literally bowed down to and worshipped? The imagery here is just incredible. It says they would take these statues made of gold and silver, things that were worth a fortune, and just toss them away into dark, dirty places where only mice and bats live. It's this powerful picture of them finally realizing how completely worthless these things truly were. But just when you think it's all about judgment and doom, the whole tone shifts. It doesn't end there. Instead, there's this incredible, compassionate invitation. This is such a pivotal moment. But what does this phrase, let us set matters straight, actually mean? Is God asking for some kind of negotiation? Well, not exactly. The source material explains it's less of a debate between equals and more like a courtroom, a forum for justice. The righteous judge is giving the people a chance to change their ways, to come clean, and to align themselves with his perfect standard. And just look at the promise that comes with this invitation. Think about the deepest, most permanent stain you can imagine, like scarlet red. The promise here is that even a stain like that could be washed away, made as white as pure snow. We're talking about complete, total forgiveness. And the steps to get there were super clear and practical. It wasn't just about stopping the bad stuff, though that was step one. You had to actively learn to do good, to seek out justice, and this is so important, to stand up for the people who couldn't stand up for themselves, like the fatherless child and the widow. So for anyone who actually took this path, who made this genuine change, Isaiah paints this absolutely magnificent picture of the future, a world totally transformed. It talks about a time in the final part of the days when everyone, people from all nations, would stream towards God for instruction. They wouldn't be forced. They would want to learn his ways and walk in his paths.
And this has to be one of the most famous prophecies ever written. It's his beautiful idea of taking instruments of death, swords and spears, and literally reforging them into tools of life, like plows and pruning shears. It's a vision of a world where war is not just stopped, it's unlearned. And as the sources point out, many feel this is already happening in a spiritual sense among those who really take these teachings to heart.
So in the end, Isaiah presents this clear choice, a fork in the road, leading to two completely different futures. It all boiled down to one thing: would they listen and obey, or would they refuse and rebel? And that really leaves us with a powerful question to think about for our own time as well.